Good morning, East Lansing. I'm Jerry.
And this is Tom, and today we have a special interview with Alexander the Great.
And it's gonna be great.
Welcome. Today we're interviewing Alexander the Great. As many of you know, he's the leader of the expansive Macedonia Empire. I'm going to ask him some extensive questions to get to the root of the question, who is Alexander the Great? So Alexander, please tell us about your relationship with your father.
Well, my relationship with my father changed over time. I was very close to him when I was younger. I looked up to him quite a bit. Philip II, a great conqueror, brought my family's name back into the empire. But even though he was a king and a conqueror, he still wanted the best for me, and he had got me the best minds around to teach me how to ride and how to fight and how to think like a general, and how to think in general, really. And I really did look to him as a role model as the kind of leader I wanted to be, or the kind of conqueror I wanted to leave a legacy as great as he did. But over time, unfortunately, we started to drift apart. Our relationship was a bit more strained, and looking back, I realized my mother was kind of turning me against him.
What I think about Philip is that he's a big jerk, but I guess he's okay with all his money, so that's the only positive side.
So there was a period of time before his death where I really didn't see him. He had me out quelling rebellions and making a name for myself as a general. When I heard about his death, he had me out there because he didn't want me at his throat or anything. So after his death, I came back and I realized years down the road how much I actually learned from him, and even my tactics to this day I found are based off of his tactics, and he of course learned everything he knew from the Athenians and the Spartans.
How have you been such an effective ruler?
I believe in order to be an effective ruler, you have to be an effective leader, and by that I mean you have to have the faith of your troops. You have to have the people around you believe that you are going to not necessarily what's best for them, but what's best in general. You're going to do whatever's the most important, that you're looking out for the welfare of all to some degree. And my troops, they trusted me implicitly. They knew of my record of conquest, and they knew that I was the kind of general who was not going to throw their lives away, but I was going to win whatever we were going to do. Moving more towards the civilian population, you have to be good governor, fair governor, and otherwise you risk the constant, never-ending uprisings of a population. And I found that the reality is the general population doesn't care who's in charge of them, as long as on a day-to-day level their lives are unchanged. So I, for the most part, left them alone. I still wanted the people to assimilate to my former Greek culture, but I set it up so it was more of an immersion. It was around them, but it was just something they would do in time.
Please expand on your ability to assimilate without force.
Like I said, forced assimilation would always lead to the rebellion of the people, and I didn't want that kind of thing going on. This is what massive as my empire was. If I had to worry about a rebellion every other day, it would just fall apart from the inside. So for the most part, I let people practice their own religion. It's very near and dear to a lot of people's heart. I wasn't trying to impact that much at all. And I would take part in a lot of the local practices. Heck, most of my wives I married only to show fidelity with the local cultures. But I brought in the Greek monetary system to encourage a more even form of trade. My troops, of course, would be there, and they were all, assimilated to Greek culture. So I would more or less immerse the entire society in culture by having it around them, but letting them practice whatever they wanted to freely, as long as they were dutiful citizens. And over time, they would adapt to the Greek culture. They just adopt it as their own. You can't force someone to adopt any kind of mentality or any kind of lifestyle and expect them to truly embrace it as their own. They're always going to rebel on the inside. They're going to do their own cultural practices secretly. So by never forcing them to do so and having a peaceful, non-forceful form of assimilation, it was far more effective and far more complete.
So describe to us the importance of your education.
My early education was extremely important to me. Like I said, my father had brought world-renowned tutors to teach me. Leonidas of Epirus taught me to fight and to ride, and he taught me how to have the endurance on these forced military marches so I would be with my men. Lysimachus of Acarnania taught me to read, to write, taught me rhetoric, and he taught me the lyre. And overall, he fostered in me a love of literature and the arts that is still to this day followed through with me. Also, there was Aristotle, who taught me a respect for the natural world and philosophy. My education overall allowed me to be a great tactician, effective leader. It allowed me to govern in a manner that would ensure that I was not constantly fighting previously conquered people at my back. But I still believe that even education in general is a good idea, or at least a common language, which is why I demanded that all the trade routes use Greek currency and Greek language as the language of the trade. So it allowed for a more free exchange of ideas in the future, I believe.
Aristotle seems to be an important figure in your life.
Aristotle was very influential in my early life in the early ways I developed my methods of thinking. His lessons on medicine saved me and my troops on many occasions in the field of battle. And the reality is, my method of assimilation is more or less adopted from his method of teaching, which is just an immersion concept, immersion technique. The critical thinking I learned from his lessons in philosophy allowed me to make effective and immediate decisions in the field of battle. It also allowed me to make effective laws for governance. What I'm really most thankful to him for is his introduction to Homer's works. To this day, I still love the Iliad. I keep it with me all the time, and I truly believe it is like a pocket edition of all military strategy. It's a wonderful book, and I find that Achilles is the kind of hero that I aspire to be. We were friends for many years, but in time we ended up drifting apart, didn't always see eye to eye. But I guess the reality is that Aristotle really did help shape this empire.
What do you feel the lasting effects of your empire will be?
Well, I guess I conquered and unified the known world under one single empire with a single cultural identity and a single cultural language. I effectively made Greek the universal language in a period of 12 years? The trade routes I established would bring prosperity for generations. I, brought otherwise barbaric cultures into the era of Greek civility. And years after my death, and if my empire ever were to fall, my influence on architecture and art through Greek culture will be permanent, will be seen forever. Some people may see me only as a conqueror, some people may see me as a great leader or a bad leader. It doesn't really matter in the end. I truly believe that 1,000 years from now, people will see the impact I had, that whether or not the Greek culture was mine originally, how I spread it, how I allowed it to proliferate, will have lasting impacts. It won't be forgotten. And therefore, I won't be forgotten.
Thank you, Alexander, for your time today.
Absolutely.
See you next time.
And that's all we have for you today, folks. You have a good morning now.